So I want to talk to you with a follow-up topic today. A follow-up to 5 Dirty Bikers episode 1 is Motovlogging Dead. So let's get after it. Welcome back, everybody. So is motovlogging dead? That's the question. To make a motovlog about whether or not motovlogging is dead might sound a little bit ridiculous, right? It sounds a little bit ridiculous when I think about it, actually, to be honest with you. And we all had a varying number of opinions on the topic. And I think where we kind of all landed, certainly where I landed on is motovlogging dead, is this: no, motovlogging is not dead. However, this style of motovlogging that you see from me, that you've seen from me pretty much through the beginning of this season, this style of motovlogging is, I think, a medium that is changing. It's evolving. I don't think that this style of just strapping a GoPro on your helmet and riding around is something that can sustain. I think that so many of the other content creators outside of motovlogging even have upped the game in terms of action camera content creation and editing, making things much more cinematic, changing the way that we edit the content that we put out, what we discuss when we're on our bikes, the fact that we have discussions, period, instead of just, strapping the camera on and driving around, right? That's not enough anymore. You got to bring more to it. But this first person only type of motovlog is going away. It's going to be going away for me even. My next season, I intend on switching things up. I'm going to add a camera. I'm going to be doing more talking head videos over the course of the winter to change my perspective of what I'm doing and to change your perspective of me. I've got, 4 or 5 months. 4 months for sure, sometimes 5, that I can't ride at all. And so because of that, I really have to have a filler for content. That will be part of the reason that I will have the podcast and be involved in the 5 Dirty Biker podcast. But the other part of it is really going to be the obviously winter in this area of the country is impossible to ride in. And so to bring you guys content, I'm going to have to do some other things with my channel that I want to be able to continue to have content that I put out there, and possibly, some topics that we might discuss on the 5 Dirty Bikers podcast might be something that I want to discuss further in detail on my motovlog. But I think that's what you see some of the, kind of motovlog creators doing. I think you see them doing content that is not just solely motovlog related, that it is a little bit of both, right? You see some talking head stuff, you see some motorcycle content. When I was talking about the progression with our group, one of the things that I said was I really liked what Adam Sandoval is doing. So he does a lot of kind of like daily blog or vlog kind of situations, and his motorcycle content is almost entirely set to music with very little content where he's doing this kind of talking like we're doing here. And so he is already evolving that medium. Now there's other content creators that are out there doing crazy good edits, and some still are doing this first person content creation. Blockhead is one of them. He's been very successful at this type of content creation that is just that first person view, that you're looking at the motorcycle from this direction, which is what drew so many of us in. But it's evolving. You know, he even evolved his first person content when he had more people that he rode with, when he added different audio to his so that you could hear the conversations he was having with the riders that he was riding with. All of those things added to his you know, kind of changing the way that he was doing his content creation. Or Shade Tree Surgeon, for instance, how he does some of his content where he's doing talking head, you know, not even riding the bike at all, you know, or he shows that, you know, what he does when he's going on his bike, you know, the trips that he's doing, the people that he's hanging out with, you know, the build series bikes that he has. You know, he kind of has a variety of things. And you know, there are many channels that have build series or mod series, and I'm not saying I won't. I probably will have some mod series, and I think for me personally, I'm gonna have to have things that I do to my bike in the wintertime, that I do videos on, to continue to put out content through the winter. That's going to definitely be a challenge to me. So whether I do weekly or bi-weekly, I know when I started my channel, it was really kind of a bi-weekly situation, and then it was, you know, then I've been able to kind of keep up with a little bit more of a weekly content now the last few weeks. I've getting a lot more comfortable in the editing process and getting a lot more comfortable in that part of it. And that's really what enables you to get it out. You know, getting the time to do the vlogs and then getting them edited and put out is also part of, you know, what takes a little bit of time. So, but without any motovlog possibilities in the wintertime, my content creation is going to have to be different. And so, you know, that will be a change in motovlogging for me. And another change I know from my perspective, not only adding another camera and having 2 views that I'll be doing next season, but the ability to do a weekly video in the summertime when it's nice, trying to get more content recorded so that I can extend my season further into the fall and still have content to be putting out in the wintertime. So if I'm putting out 1 video a week, for instance, but maybe I have time to film 2 or 3 videos a week, then I'm going to have content that I'm going to be able to release further into my off season, which is going to create a situation for me that's really going to be advantageous long term. You know, to be able to have content later in the year, less non-motovlog content in the off season. But again, it goes to the idea of making sure that you have content that you can put out and that you can get, you know, that you can get recorded and get out, and that's a challenge. You know, that kind of full-time job, full-time family, all of those things kind of play into it, that you have to be able to balance those things adequately to put your creative content out there. And yeah, you know, you can phone it in and you can just put out the same kind of first-person content, and I'm not saying that that's wrong or that's a bad thing, but I think even for myself, even though I'm a new content creator and I'm new to motovlogging, that challenging myself to do bigger and better things is definitely something that I'm into. You know, you have to learn, you have to progress, you have to throw in different tricks, different styles, you know, and part of those things are learning. Watching other content creators that are not specifically motovloggers, that know more about editing processes, that know more about camera angles, that know more about creativity. You know, I go back to my very first motovlog, which was essentially just turning the camera on, riding, talking, turn the camera off. I look at where I'm at now. I have edits, I have music, I have an outro. You know, it's, you know, my follower base is building. So all of those things add to, you know, to the idea that you're progressing in your content creation. And I want to do that too. I want to progress in my content creation. So I'm putting better stuff out there for the people that are watching. And I hope that people out there that are watching appreciate the you know, the progression in the content creation, because it's not as easy as everybody thinks just to strap a camera on it and go. It becomes, well, it's a learning curve, a learning process. I remember my first video, I went out and it took me a few times even just to get that one recorded, because just to have a conversation with yourself in your helmet and not have empty space and ideas that are not, you know, kind of popping in and out of your head, and having that conversation with yourself, it's not as easy as you think. It's this kind of interesting phenomenon where you know, you can be yourself as much as you want and talk to yourself, and as soon as you have a camera on you, or you're recording your own voice, it gives you this kind of this feeling like you're being watched, right? And so you don't know what to say. There's gaps and pauses in your conversation. It feels less than natural and just gets to be a little bit weird. And you really have to you know, pay attention to how you're driving and where you're going, and you know, what your ride is going to be like. If you have an unplanned ride, or you're going places you don't know or are unfamiliar with, that kind of changes that portion of it, you know, without a doubt. Knowing that when you're talking to yourself in your helmet, if you're talking with your hands like I do, like many people do, that the idea of what that looks like to maybe somebody that's next to you, it can be a little bit unnerving and feel like, you know, oh, I'm waving my hands around like an idiot on my motorcycle. So, and there are people that watch these motovlogs that say that, you know, as riders we're not nearly as vigilant when we're motovlogging, and there may be some truth to that, but I think from my perspective, I think I might be more vigilant, because I need to be consciously aware of the conversation I'm having, and at the same time, you know that I'm in a position that I'm putting myself in greater danger if I'm not being extra vigilant, if I'm not really paying attention to my surroundings, paying attention to the traffic around me, what the cars are doing around me and in front of me and behind me, and you know, all of those things, because that can make a huge difference in my safety for sure. People don't watch for motorcycle riders as it is, so if you're not paying attention when you're riding, you're going to get yourself into some big trouble. So yeah, anyway, so again, to kind of get back to it, is motovlogging dead? You know, I answered that question in the beginning, and I said no, and I stand by that. I don't believe for 1 second that motovlogging is dead. I think that motovlogging is evolving. I think that the community around motovlogging is changing. I think that the content creators are changing what they're putting out, and I think that the ones that are going to be in it for the long haul are going to up their game. The ones that aren't willing to do that I think are going to be short-lived. The market for motovlogging is kind of, you know, reaching this odd point where the market's getting saturated with motovloggers, right? So the big ones are going to continue to get big, and the small ones are going to struggle to grow unless you can do something different, diversify, bring some attention to your channel. You know, have a video that hits, that goes viral, and you're going to get some massive growth on your channel. Have a support structure or group of guys that you can do something different with your content. That's what a lot of us are doing. You know, I partnered with 5 guys to do the 5 Dirty Biker podcast. That podcast in itself is generating some interest to our channels beyond what we're doing, beyond our normal motovlogging. We have more things that we talk about. We bounce ideas off each other. That ups the game. That ups the game for us considerably, because we're not just by ourselves, you know, kind of doing this. You have a group of guys that you're kind of you know, bouncing things off of, and you have ideas, and so it creates this atmosphere where you can really grow and we can push each other to be more creative. I think that's the biggest thing, is that you know, I partner with guys that are whose channels are much bigger than mine, and so they're pushing me to get better faster. You know, so where I might have not pushed myself as hard in my content creation, I find myself pushing my video editing process, my, you know, content that I'm talking about much more readily. You know, I'm on top of it more. I'm discussing it more. I'm asking their opinions. Hey, you know, I just posted a video. Is it shit? Let me know. I mean, all of those things kind of, you know, culminate in growth in your content creation. Now, does that say that we're putting out content that is in a genre that's dying? I don't think that that's the case. I just think that it's going to be challenging, for sure, in a changing, you know, kind of changing marketplace of content creation. It's not going to be as set in stone. There's going to be some changes coming. There's going to be some growth. There's going to be some people that are going to stop doing it. I'm going to get caught in some rain here. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you like what I'm doing, hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell icon, and you'll know when I upload more content. This is Kid Moto. I'm out.